Settlement agreement. I would move for its approval.
I'll second.
Motion and a second on the item. Questions, comments? Floor is open. Very good. No, not in the second. Alder Freund.
I can't support this. You know, this is, I guess when we were here, I guess last June approving this contract, you know, I suggested that the way that the negotiations and the way that everything leading up to this has gone, we were essentially pushing one side or the other to get to where we are today. I have never supported the way that we have treated Mr. Cannon. I believe that this has been one mistake after another, and could have been handled better. And so I'm looking forward to certainly moving forward on it with the next item on the agenda, hoping that we can not have the power struggle that's gone on to this point, and can move on, but I will not be voting to support this.
Further comments on this item? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second. Something further, call the roll.
Costello.
Aye.
Walensky. Aye. Belaya.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Osbender.
Aye.
Freund.
No.
Hoffman.
Aye.
Kowski.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-1. Item 2, resolution appointing interim city administrator. May I have that report, please?
Yes, Your Honor. This evening, the committee of the whole met in closed session to discuss qualifications and compensation for an interim city administrator candidate. After returning to open session and forwarded on to City Council, closed session committee of the whole is moving to approve Margaret Powers as interim city administrator for an indefinite period of time. I would move for its approval.
Motion and a second on that item. Any discussion of this body? We have one registrant registering in opposition of this request and wishing to speak. Mr. Joe Chase, 923 Broadway Drive, Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, representing himself.
Thank you.
Mr. Chase.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The floor is yours.
Councils. I didn't know how to approach this as being in opposition or in support, because I didn't know what your determination was going to be this evening. So my concern was more about the process than the result. Here we are 1 week from a previous closed meeting. There's been no public comment as to what the council was doing. And there will be no public comment until tonight, after the council has already made their decision about administrative issues that appear to have happened within the last week. So again, my concern tonight was a little bit more about the process than the candidate. And I can speak more about the candidate because I would give a glowing review of the candidate. But seeing that there was no public input until this very moment, it really would become a little interesting as to, you know, what the public's role is involved with a decision of this magnitude. At least to the point where there be information flow, especially in open government, as we're trying to portray our city as being very open in how they do their processing. I recall when it takes 60 days to get a stop sign put in this community. And it appears that within 1 week, we've got an interim city administrator. So again, my concern as I come to you is about the process. And I'm wondering how much of the process you can reveal to the public. Because the question is, the public should have this due diligence. The question of due diligence as to who did you, what options did you look at? As opposed to, because I look around at the council and I know there's a number of council members here that do not know the candidate. So I think it's kind of interesting that we go through long interview processes for other department heads and do due diligence as far as qualifications and what have you. But again, this didn't appear to be part of the agenda of the council. So again, I was wondering if that will be part of what the council can share with the community as to what process they went through to select. Because as you all know, I sent a suggestion to the mayor and council president wondering if they would be looking at contract services, if they would be looking at individuals, if they would be looking at going to a temp agency to get administrative, if they were going to go to another service organization, or if in fact there was a candidate involved. So it seems, and again, perception, as you well know, is what government's all about in this town. It seems that this was preconceived, that there was a candidate that was ready to go, and there wasn't very much discussion among the council because there was only one full meeting of the council prior to tonight. So it again appears to me that the council probably, really didn't have full disclosure until tonight, and then they made one of the biggest decisions that this community is going to see for a long time. So again, as I ask you, is there any way that you are interested in revealing the process that led to this night, and how you came up with one definite solution as opposed to, or were there other options that were looked at? And that's really my comments for, I guess the other thing is, since it is open, I was wondering if you would again explain what the job description is going to be and the terms and conditions, other than just an interim administrator for an indefinite period. I would assume that your candidate would have been, should have been privileged to what expectations are and what the terms of the contract are, or terms of the employment are. And I would again, I think in the nature of open government, I would like to know what your plan is on how to address that issue. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna answer the first question. The email that you sent to myself and Mr. Weber, it would have been inappropriate for either one of us to respond to at that point. It was a confidential personnel matter at that point, and so, while I understand that your feelings may have been hurt that we didn't respond to you, we simply could not because it was a pending personnel matter. With that, the council president asked to respond to the remainder of your questions, and we can certainly then have a discussion and hopefully satisfy your inquiry.
Mr. Mayor, when Zach gets through, I'm sorry I didn't fill it. I'd like to say a couple of things. Thank you.
Joe, I must admit, I am taken back, not only by your email when I read it, but also by your comments, and I'm taken back by the level of ignorance, given that you were in office for 6 years, and that you fully are aware of closed session personnel matters, that we do not make it public. We do not make it public when we appoint someone. It is an interim position. There is no requirement that says we have to go out and have public notices. Margaret is a proven leader. She has been a successful administrator in the past. This is interim. We're not required or obligated to have a hiring process. And quite frankly, I view your comments nothing more as self-serving. as I will read the email that I was copied on that you sent to the mayor on Friday, August 26th at 3:54 p.m. I'm sure you and the city council are looking at a lot of options concerning city administration. My observation is that you really don't have any internal candidates that would qualify as an interim administrator. Brenda would be the closest, but it would be a stretch for her. I'm offering you another option. I'm available as an interim administrator. I know that you can see the benefits of my proposal because I know the process and you know that I'm an honest person. Those should be two things that are evaluated as you proceed with your options. The other thing, you know that as I am trusted, I have worked closely with the supervisory staff, the caveat being, if there are individuals that don't trust me, those are the same individuals that don't trust the city council. I could be a private contractor, LTE, an employee of Baker Tilly, or whatever else works best for the city council and constituents. And I know how to work for peanuts, and I have no problem with that. I think I can safely say I can underbid any of your other options. I don't think I would be a hard, quote, hard sell to the constituents. This is just me thinking out loud, and I am interested in talking seriously about it. And it looks like this would be a better fit for me than the bid director. Joe Chase. Where have you been for 6 years? You know that we don't operate like this. This is an interim position. We're not going to get into negotiations or discussions with appointing you in an email, and it appears nothing more than
Did you read the
self-serving.
first line again?
Yes, and you're upset because we did not enter into discussions with you for an interim position. So therefore, you come and try to be critical of us during this entire process.
I'm asking about the process.
Because we did not respond to you.
No, I am not. I am here to ask about the process.
I'm just absolutely taken back by your
I'm
conduct.
sure you are, Mr.
Everyone in this room, and yes, there is one alder or two alders that did not previously work with Margaret Powers. But I feel that after they had an opportunity to speak with her, to question her, and to hear from other council members as we discussed this thoroughly in closed session, I think I can safely speak for them that they wouldn't have voted in support of her had they not felt extremely comfortable with her, and the fact that she was a 14-year employee with the city of Sun Prairie. So I'm very disappointed, Joe, in your approach and in your comments. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Fine. I was equally as taken back by your email. It was, as Alder Weber said, it was incredibly self-serving. When you talk about the length of this process, it hasn't taken any time. It's been described by Margaret as a whirlwind, and there was no meeting prior to tonight to consider employment with her, period. It would be irresponsible of us to leave that position with no one in that position for a long period of time. We need to continue government, and we need to move swiftly. I can't be happier with the candidate that our first choice, candidly, as an interim administrator, was interested and was incredibly receptive this evening. You know, again, I think that we need people who has the respect of staff, and she has that. You know, your email aside, I'm sorry you weren't on the list. At least my list, in terms of folks that would be good fits for this position, and so we'll leave it at that. I think that again, your email was incredibly telling, and I think it was certainly appropriate to read that this evening. Mr. Chase.
I would like to respond to that, because in no way was my email considered to be anything more than me extending my the opportunity to the city to have someone that could step into the position. I had no idea that you in any way were looking at an individual candidate. Again, remember, none of this was based on I having any previous knowledge of who you were already focused on, one person. Again, very interesting that we didn't even think of contract services, and we didn't think of, you know, again, this is where my mind would have gone to right away with this council, because, it isn't like there's someone standing at the door saying, well, by the way, if your city administrator ever leaves, I'm readily available. I'm not sure that we have that level of contact. But again, that's the position I came from with any correspondence with the council, was that I was extending my background to your possible advantage. And at whatever conditions and terms that you came up with, I wasn't setting the terms, nor was I in any way suggesting that. I was coming forth with my observation, and my last line says the same thing. I'm speaking, I'm speaking out loud on this thing. It's no different than doing a little brainstorming, which I didn't think a lot of people get criticized for, because I remember the #1 thing in brainstorming is you don't criticize any of the suggestions. You look at them, qualify them, or disqualify them. And I don't have a problem with certain alders disqualifying me in this role. Again, I came out of an open request, and I think I sent it to the right people, to the council president and the mayor, to let them make a decision. And if the only response I was going to get back, this is a personnel issue and we can't discuss it, that would have been a response that I think that was probably not outside of the realm of responding to a constituent. And so again, I'm not here in any way to criticize. Like I said, I would give a glowing review of Margaret Powers if I knew that that was even the candidate you were talking about tonight. And I will give that glowing review. I worked under her as an employee and as the mayor. And I had the utmost respect for that person. And I do to this day. So I'm not criticizing in any way your selection. I, again, was interested in how quickly the process worked. And the fact that I know the public doesn't have to be involved, and they haven't been.
Mr. Chase, if you're as plugged into the staff here as you say you have such great relationships with them, this is perhaps an awfully kept secret. So if you say you don't know the candidate, and you ended it with, it's a better fit than the bid director. Anyway, I'm done.
Further discussion on this item? We have an additional registrant, Mr. Don Guzer, 186 North Street, representing himself in support of the request and wishing to speak. The floor is yours. Mr. Guzer.
Thank you, Your Honor. Unlike anyone else in this room, until the events of the past week, I've been through this well, I shouldn't say that, Diane was here. I've been down this road and done that, and it's not fun. But it happens, and I have all the confidence in the world that the decision you made, you did for meaningful reasons, and I applaud you for taking the bull by the horns and doing what you had to do. Enough said about that. It's a tough job, but sometimes that's what you get paid to do. With regard to the candidate that you selected, I worked with Margaret Powers for 12 years as an alderman and as an acting mayor, and I cannot give anyone higher grades or more glowing report in terms of candidness, credibility, respect, and someone, when you talk to her, you know it's not going to end up with you getting stabbed in the back 5 minutes later. You tell Margaret Powers something, you tell her what you believe, and she tells you what she thinks, and what she tells you is what she really believes. She is probably the best candidate and will probably be one of the best city administrators, acting or otherwise, this city will ever have, and I commend each and every one of you on your decision. Best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you, Don.
Further discussion? The item before us is a resolution appointing the interim city administrator. Margaret Powers, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that item? Seeing and hearing none, call the roll.
Castaldo.
Aye.
Valinsky. Aye. Belayne.
Aye.
Weber.
Aye.
Boston.
Aye.
Freund.
Aye.
Hoffman.
Aye.
Towski.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously.